The ruling is a big victory for privacy activist Max Schrems, who championed the case. Max joins us now live from Vienna via Skype. And Max, thanks so much for being with us. Why was it so important for you to pursue this to the very highest court? What is it that you're afraid these companies are doing with your data?
We have the basic problem that we have the mass surveillance scandal, and we didn't really have any consequences in Europe. There were like angry letters by politicians, but nothing really happened. And the idea was really to go after the companies, because we, as Europe, we don't have any jurisdiction over what the US is doing on the internet on mass surveillance. But they need these companies to help them to get all this data. And the idea was to go after the companies because, for example, Facebook, the one that was in this case, is operating 82% of their worldwide user base out of Dublin, which falls under European jurisdiction. There you can actually say, if you aid foreign spy agencies, that very likely conflicts with European fundamental rights, and that was pretty much the case that was brought.
The U.S. government says that it does not and has not engaged, and I'm quoting them, in indiscriminate surveillance of ordinary European citizens.
Yeah, the biggest thing is here that there's a very different definition of what mass surveillance actually is in the U.S. and in Europe. Europe has a very broad understanding of what surveillance means, so just the keeping of data of you is already seen as surveillance. In the case, it was actually not debated that much in the court, but in this case, it's just the fact that companies have to grant access to the NSA and other organizations that would already trigger what we would call mass surveillance. At the same time, that's nothing that would trigger the Fourth Amendment under the U.S. Constitution. So it's perfectly valid to say it's not mass surveillance, but it's only not mass surveillance if you look at it from a U.S. Legal view, not from a European view.
Max, a lot of people are calling this a victory for privacy, but some others are saying that, you know, the Facebooks and the Googles of this world with their deep pockets will figure out a way to work around this, but it's going to be small businesses that are hurt. Do you think that this is too broad of a ruling? Should there be some sort of compromise?
The thing is, you can't really compromise on fundamental rights. There's something that the court even can't do because they're really the basics of our legal system in Europe. You can't just get rid of them because it's more convenient in trade with the U.S. The thing on the ruling, there's one part that they could have probably done smoother. It would have been possible to have an implementation period of, for example, half a year to say, yes, this deal that we have with the U.S. is invalid, but you can still count on it for half a year. To really turn it down overnight may have been a little bit too much. However, the enforcement in Europe also takes a while. So this case will now trickle back down into the national data protection authorities. They will then be able to suspend data flows. And, of course, the big companies said it's not going to be a problem for them because they don't want their shares to go down. But the ruling does apply to Facebook directly. They use alternative transport methods. The law provides for safe harbor and other methods. Facebook says they use these other methods, so it's no problem for them. But the ruling by the court was really on fundamental rights, and they apply to all these transfer methods. So I think especially companies like Facebook will have the bigger problems, while small companies have an easier time to move their data to, for example, European storage.
Max, you're taking on some powerful companies. Are you worried about backlash from them? And are you satisfied? I mean, do you feel like the fight is over now, or are you going to continue?
I'm happy that this is done now. The case goes back down and out to Ireland. On a personal level, I'm not a person that fears things too much. But what you saw is that after a while, of course, there did come up these kind of more personal attacks, saying that you only do that because you want to be on TV or something like that. Where from the beginning on, I was like, you'd rather not be on TV than I wanted to be. But that's more something where you just feel that, well, I just feel like they don't have any valid arguments anymore, so they go after the person. That's not really something that I worry too much about, honestly.
Well, Max, we're glad that you put your personal distaste of television aside and joined us today. We certainly know you have a lot of supporters who join you in the fight. Max Schrems for us. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.